with part two of our special Stogie Geeks extra episode on cigar rights with our guest Glenn Loope. Just want to mention our sponsors. We have Mr. J's Havana Shop located up in Rhode Island. They have an outstanding selection of premium handmade cigars. And by the Havana Cigar Club located in Warwick, Rhode Island. It's a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks and Cigar Coop listeners can find a $5 off coupon off both websites by clicking the HCC logo. And by Debonair Cigars. Visit www.stogiegeeks.com/Debonair for a list of retailers who carry Debonair. Buy some today and get a little more Debonair. And by Ocean State Cigars. Try the J Grotto series. That also includes the Connecticut Sage Silk, the limited edition J Grotto Reserva lines, and the recently announced, soon to debut at the IPCPR trade show, the Connecticut Broadleaf J Grotto Anniversary. And you can visit Cigar Coop for a preview of that cigar. And you can visit Ocean State Cigars at www.oceanstatecigars.com. And I just want to remind folks who are listening to the broadcast or watching live, if anyone who is not a member of CRA tonight joins for a minimum of 1 year, in addition to the promo you get from Cigar Rights of America, you will get 2 premium handled cigars from the Stogie Geeks. Use Will Cooper's ambassador code of 0159 as a referral. Then the first 10 people who sign up and provide confirmation to us, and you can provide that confirmation, by the way, I was asked about it, at theshow@stogiegeeks.com. The offer will expire on June 30th. And we are back with Glenn Loope. Glenn, thanks for taking a few extra moments on a real important topic here with us here.
No problem at all.
So we kind of started talking about the Congressional Bills, and they've been floating around for a while. And so there was a House bill and a Senate bill, and they were started a couple years ago. And then at the end of the 2012 Congress, they basically had to be started over again. So 2 new bills to replace those were created for the new Congress. And they should be ingrained in everyone's minds right now. H.R. 792 in the House and Senate 772. Glenn, where do they stand in terms of sponsorship right now in Congress?
Today. See, this is Stogie Geeks just get all kinds of breaking news stuff here.
That's what we do. That's what we do here.
Today, we picked up our 157th member of the House, Congressman Henry Cuellar of Texas. So he was a previous co-sponsor in the 112th Congress, and he came back today. So we really appreciate that. So again, that's 157 in the House, and we just recently picked up, and we put this in our release today to our members. We picked up our 16th member of the U.S. Senate, Mazie Hirono of Hawaii. And that gives us both U.S. Senators of Hawaii. That gives us both U.S. Senators of Louisiana. That gives us both U.S. Senators of Florida and both U.S. Senators of Pennsylvania. So that's a cool commentary.
That is really good.
And ironically, those are states that have a huge economic interest in the premium cigar industry. So we finished the 112th Congress with 221, a working majority of the House. Obviously, nothing got through that Congress. They barely got through the term fiscal cliff, much less something like cigars. So, nothing was getting through. So we had to refile the bill, as you noted, and we did so. There were about 80 members of Congress that either didn't run again, got beat, and the ones that left were about 40. Of those 40 that didn't sign back on in 2013 through the 113th Congress, which obviously spans into 2014, they either didn't sign back on because of pressure from big tobacco or pressure from the healthcare community. But slowly but surely, we've rebuilt that coalition. It sends a resounding message. The legislation serves an incredible political purpose to getting the message across that this is a bipartisan feeling. We've got some success to announce in the very near future about some language that's been utilized in some of the appropriations process. We feel good about the direction it's going as far as, again, sending a signal to the FDA that this has got a lot of bipartisan feeling, that there are a tremendous number of members of Congress who voted for the original Tobacco Control Act that are supporting our position for exemption on this. So hopefully they're paying attention to that. So it's serving a very viable purpose. and it's an instrument to continue the political education in Washington about how premium handmade cigars are different than other products.
So we're getting to the end of the Congress right now. So this year, and then there'll be another new Congress. What happens at the end of this year in terms of that? I mean, and are we, in terms of the progress we're making? It sounds like we're still heading in the right direction right now.
Well, that's a good question, and the industry will have to assess that when it comes December 31st. By December 31st, we'll probably be in a public comment review period. I'm speculating on that. There could be other extensions. I have no idea. There could be a 60, 75-day extension. There could be an onslaught of comment and demand for more time. It could so the public comment period could be dragged out. We have no idea. You have to play those cards as they're dealt to you. So the industry would have to assess on whether or not it's a viable part of our strategy to perhaps reintroduce that legislation in 2015. We'll just have to cross that bridge when we get to it.
So in terms of the support in Congress, this is what I've heard. I've heard that there are people who have basically said yes, they'll sign on to the co-sponsors. Then I'm hearing there's this other group out there, obviously, that's against this. But then I hear there's this third group that maybe is not signing on as co-sponsors, but they're working the back channels. Is there support in that third area, so to speak?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely.
I've heard some real interesting names in that third area. I mean, can I throw one out?
Sure.
Harry Reid.
Moving right along.
Okay. Okay. All right. So this is a very important thing.
I'll comment on this. I mean,
okay.
We've spent a lot of time and effort with the senator's office educating them as to what this industry means to the great state of Nevada. They've been very open. They've been very welcoming, and the senator did go on record, so that's important to note.
I saw a photo with you and him. Him, and Jeff Borchowitz and Rocky Patel.
That's true. We had a meeting with the senator in Nevada when we almost began this process, and it was a good meeting. But the senator did go on record recognizing our concerns with the White House Office of Management and Budget. So there is a third camp, and like everything in Washington, there's always a way.
Interesting to say the least. And I guess what I've told people is, obviously everybody has their slate of issues that are important to them, but when it comes to if the cigar issues are as important to you as it is to us, you got to look past the bipartisan. If you're in one party or the other, this is not the time to draw a party line.
That's right. Well, during the 112th Congress, I did an interview with the Wall Street Journal where I said, at the time, we have the only bill in Congress that's got Charlie Rangel and Michelle Bachmann on the same bill, which must mean one thing: we must be right. When you get those, in this Congress, we've got Tea Party Republicans and ultra liberal Democrats on the same bill. That sends a resounding message. On the political spectrum in Pennsylvania, we've got Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, a public health advocate, a children's health advocate, a great man, but he got the message as to what the premium cigar industry means to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. On the diametric opposite end of the political spectrum, from this exact same state, you've got Senator Pat Toomey. So just within the confines of Pennsylvania, you've got this metaphor for opposite ends of the political spectrum. In Florida, you got Democrat Bill Nelson, you've got Senator Marco Rubio. It's interesting I bring it up in that context because in Louisiana, we've got Democrat Mary Landrieu and Republican David Vitter. If Pennsylvania and Louisiana and Florida don't epitomize the bipartisan support that our message has, I'm not sure what does.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So in terms of, right now, the message through Congress right now, are there any are there any kind of folks you want to acknowledge right now in Congress who have been really above and beyond in terms of helping? Or and that's okay if you don't want to too.
No, that's a great question, Will. Actually, there is. I mean, you know, Representative Kathy Castor for Tampa voted for the original Tobacco Control Act, voted for it, and she has been wholeheartedly supportive and helpful in this process. Congressman Bill Posey, our lead Republican in the House, has really gone above and beyond in his sponsorship of the legislation, given that the Republicans control the House of Representatives. So, Castor and Posey have both teamed up in again, a bipartisan context from the same state of Florida in our defense. So they've done outstanding things for us. In the Senate, I mean, West Virginia, Senator Joe Manchin has been incredibly supportive. I met with him in a cigar shop, Squire Tobacconist in Charleston, West Virginia. We had a wonderful meeting over there. He signed on to the bill after he read it in the cigar shop. He read it in the cigar shop, called his chief of staff from a cigar shop, and got on the bill in the 112th. And he went on record with the White House Office of Management and Budget in our defense just around the holidays. So, there's been some wonderful champions of that nature. I just listed a few of them, but there's this exercise has allowed us to build a political network that never, ever existed before for the premium cigar industry. And believe me, this network is going to come into play when we need allies back in Congress in 2015, when things like S-CHIP are up for renewal, or if there's other types of disastrous or detrimental tax measures or other regulatory measures that stem from all of this. It's been a healthy exercise and worth every dollar, which has been about $2 million in the last 4 years, to build this network in defense of this industry with the United States Congress.
So in terms of folks ask, why contribute to the CRA? This is the work in action here. How we've been able to do this. Correct? I mean that's a good assumption. Why should we give money for the CRA?
We couldn't do it without it. Today's release to the members, we asked for special contributions because of the expense and the time and the trouble that we're in now because of this deeming reg. And we cover our direct overhead through our membership dues from members and retailers across the country, allowing us to preserve the manufacturer contributions for our very big ticket lobbying fees that we have. We have several different firms on the retainer, and it's expensive to lobby the House of Representatives, the United States Senate. We've got legal counsel, FDA legal counsel, working around the clock for us on this type of effort and campaign. So it's not cheap. Let's put it this way. I mean, it's to the tune of, I'll just throw the number out there. It's to the tune of $75,000 a month just in the outside consultants that we have to have. And we're getting ready to bring on some expertise in the healthcare arena, the health policy arena, to help get us through this deeming regulation phase. It's a very technical, cumbersome process, and it requires some specific areas of expertise, and all that has a price tag.
And that really brings up a good point, Glenn, because a lot of what I've heard, in arguments against why tobacco is bad for you has been on, and I'd say there's two, you could correct me on this, there are these studies, and the studies are either made up or they're not using a set of empirical data that's accurate. So is that where some of this would be, to try to invalidate a lot of these so-called claims right now, in terms of what you said?
Absolutely. We'll be delving into that question very deeply tomorrow. In fact, there's a lot of this 241 pages where we are compelled to document our side of the story. And that's going to require some specific areas of expertise, and that's exactly the path we're going to go down to disprove a lot of the notions that are out there from the public health community.
Interesting. So I know it's been all hands on deck with the FDA, but you guys have CRA has other objectives that they've really been fighting for a long time on, and I just want to touch on some of them briefly. So the first one is on smoking bans right now. Um, I know that for a long time there's been a lot of smoking bans. Are there some real smoking bans that concern right now cigar enthusiasts, maybe in various states or high populated municipalities right now that we
Well,
shouldn't be taking our eye off right
fortunately,
now?
very fortunately, we're not in the throngs of a lot of state legislatures right now. So that time, fortunately, passed earlier in the year, January through early April. The places I was probably most concerned have already passed. I mean, passed in terms of time, not legislation passed. Fortunately, the smoking ban bills went down in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. They went down in Alabama. They went down in Mississippi. They went down in West Virginia. Uh, they'll be back at it in South Carolina and Texas next year. So the ones that were top of my fear factor, if you will, namely Kentucky, were resoundingly defeated this year. So I'm just glad that that's not going on at the exact same time. We still have some state tax measures we're still very concerned about. They were in our release to our membership today. A significant tax increase proposed in the state of New Jersey, and a significant, horrible tax increase proposed in the state of Ohio, supported by a popular governor, which gives us an additional level of fear in Ohio. So we have active petitions going on both of those states on our website on those respective state pages. So, frankly, the e-cigarette debate and some of the other types of state issues were good distractions for the smoking ban legislation in 2014, and we got through pretty unscathed by that.
Outdoor smoking bans have been. It just seems like these are popping up more and more right now. Um, I mean, is this? I mean, I guess so. It seems like this is a trend that's going to continue. But let me ask you a question on this. With the outdoor smoking bans, I mean, all the times I think is there's this notion of secondhand smoke, which is obviously I think what triggers a lot of this, and the secondhand smoke debate. This is my understanding. There really isn't a debate that the evidence isn't there for health risks as much as it's more of an inconvenience for people to be around cigars. Would you say that's accurate right now?
I'd say that's accurate, but I want to make a note about what you said about outdoor smoking bans. We catch some grief from folks who, because we don't dive into all those. And, Will, I just got to be painfully honest about it. There's not enough time and money on planet Earth to fight all those. And we could fight outdoor smoking bans around the clock and have nothing to show for it. Nothing. The places where we were particularly active on that question is, for example, the state of Florida. There's been some backdoor efforts to try to get it in Florida to get local governments to be able to regulate outdoor smoking. And that legislation has been hopefully, soundly defeated for at least 2 years in a row. Uh, Florida is the one place where we've, gotten into that at the state level. The local governments, it's blossoming up across the country, namely on public property. My philosophical angle on that has been this: it's government property. They control it. Let them have it. I think that reinforces our position as to why they shouldn't regulate smoking on private property, i.e., cigar shops, cigar bars, cigar lounges. These places like Louisville, Kentucky, or the state of Washington, or the state of Delaware, where you can't smoke in a cigar shop, is absolutely ridiculous. That's where our time and attention and effort and resources ought to be applied to making sure that type of activity doesn't happen to affect private property. When somebody wants a steakhouse and they want a cigar bar attached to it, they should be able to have it. It's their house, their rules. So this absolute, laundry list of jurisdictions that dive into these outdoor bans, again, we've got to pick our battles, and we've got to be very careful with how we allocate our time and effort and resources. And right now, it's got to be at the federal level, but at the state level, I think we can facilitate a lot of public comment as to why certain places like Florida are on the wrong track when they consider things like allowing local governments to regulate outdoor smoking.
I guess my take on that is, and I agree with you 100%. If I see a lot of, like, I just saw something today in Charlotte where they wanted to ban smoking on some of the county property and offices, and I'm not by all means I'm not saying I favor it, but I'm more worried, like you said, about if they're going to try to take away my right to smoke in a cigar lounge, as opposed to, and
Well,
I
not
would
just
agree.
a
I'd rather
lounge. I
see
mean,
that effort
the
for
Capitol
where,
Grill in
yeah,
downtown Charlotte used to be one of the great places in the East Coast to have a cigar. It's ridiculous that a place like the state of North Carolina allowed that type of a statute to get passed, but they did. And the former governor was the one that was behind that. But protecting the ability of private clubs and cigar shops and lounges to preserve that piece of freedom is critical to our mission.
absolutely. I mean, so what advice do you give to what you call cigar vote? I mean, cigar voters is keep your eye on the politicians that are basically supporting this type of legislation. Would be
Flip
correct.
flip elections. I tell you, once we get a little bit farther into this deeming process, I look forward to being able to steer some attention and time and effort back into a piece of the puzzle that I feel very passionately about, and that's building a true grassroots effort and network that we can put to work on elections. I feel very strongly that the cigar industry needs to elevate itself politically, and of all places, the state of Florida, where everybody that runs for president, you got to carry it. That's an opportunity for us to get our message across at a national level like no other. The ability to document by precinct how many cigar voters we have across this country will allow us to be taken far more seriously as a political constituency. And that's fundamental to our mission. And I look forward to being able to, once we get some type of respite from this regulatory process, and I'm not sure when that'll ever be, but we've got to turn our attention also back to some of these fundamentals to build ourselves as a political constituency across the country.
Absolutely. And there's one other area I want to hit on, and this one just seems to be the one that's crept up in the last year, and it actually has hit a little home in my house because I have a boy who just turned 18, and if he was up in certain areas like New York, he would not be able to purchase tobacco products. Um, these tobacco, is this something that CRA is also? I'm not. I know that again, is this something that CRA is advocating that we shouldn't be raising tobacco ages to 18? I mean, from 18 to 21. Is this something that maybe there'll be some focus on if there's more time?
Well, to be honest with you, we're kind of keeping our powder dry on that issue. Um, it could be I'm not going to say a negotiating point, but it could be a source of discussion if the industry is confronted with other things that are much more damaging. We've been very careful and very consistent in stating that the demographic for the American cigar smoker is over 21, in fact. And while anybody should be able to enjoy a perfectly legal tobacco product where it is legal, i.e., whether it's 18 or a place like 19, I think it's 19 in the state of Texas. There's been legislation to raise it to 19 in the state of Oklahoma. I was surprised actually this year that the places that had died to try to raise it during the 2014 legislative session, namely Utah. I think the other one was Connecticut, that defeated legislation that would have raised it tonight to 21 in those states. New Jersey still pending, but not looking promising that they'll be able to raise it. New York City obviously, got it during the wake of Bloomberg leaving office. So let's just say that it's an issue that's it's fluid with CRA. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, no, that's a fair comment. Um, anything one more? I just want to hit on one more area, and that's S chip. We kind of hit it earlier. So S chip is once again up for funding. Is it next year? Is that when it is?
2015, yes.
2015. So in terms of an industry and cigar enthusiasts, what types of things are we possibly looking at next year with that?
Well, if there's a Republican House, it has very little hope of either being raised. It probably will not be rolled back. A pivotal part of our strategy will to make sure it doesn't get any worse. Um, there will be some hearings on that probably coming up in the not too distant future. It could be rolled into some other type of healthcare legislation that's yet to be seen. So you can bet that we'll be informing the cigar public diligently the moment that piece of legislation is up for renewal.
Excellent, excellent. So I want to turn one more question in terms of, so there's been some change in the ranks right now at Cigar Rights of America. Jeff Borshowitz, who was the CRA chairman, stepped down late last month, and now Robert Levin of Ashton Cigar is in. Any comment on that change in leadership right now? Because it seemed to come across at a very critical juncture in right now CRA's battles.
Well, it was like some countries, it was a very peaceful transition. uh, we would not. I cannot say this loudly enough. We would not be having the discussion about an exemption for premium cigars in this dimming regulation if it weren't for Jeff Borshowitz. He has been the spiritual leader of the effort in the United States Congress, in both the 112th and 113th Congress, in the pursuit of legislation to exempt premium handmade cigars from FDA oversight. He's poured his heart and his soul into it at the same time that he has got his amazing network of cigar shops in the Orlando area. He obviously has a serious catalog business, his brick and mortar business, and excuse me, and now he's in the business of growing tobacco. As a matter of fact, I spoke with him today, and he was in the field with his tobacco in Florida. With that, he needed to dedicate a lot of time and more time to his business pursuits. At the same time, he is very engaged in the legislative process. His opinions are amazingly valued by the board and the entire industry. Robbie Levin has been also a diligent leader in Cigar Rights of America. He was my first chairman in 2009 through 2011. He's back at the helm, and it's an absolute daily mission with these manufacturers to be engaged in the process. I cannot say enough for the guys that are on the board and the ones that are supportive of CRA. We could not do it without our corporate sponsors, and they're all listed on our website under the section of who's supporting CRA. The board members like George Padron and Lito Gomez and Carlito Fuente and Robbie, you name it. Next week, Glenn Case from Christoph is coming into Washington. When we had our board meeting in February in Washington, Ernesto Corello and Glenn Case again were in D.C. helping us to make rounds. We rotate manufacturers in and out. Rocky Patel has played a serious role in this process. He has an amazing collection of relationships in the United States Congress that have worked to the advantage of this entire industry. Nick Perdomo has been in and out of D.C. on this mission. I'm just throwing out these names because I want the people to know that these manufacturers are taking this gravely seriously. If they're taking it that seriously, if the retail community like Craig Cass and Feeney Helmuth and John Anderson and the others on the IPCPR board make this a daily part of their life. It's like when we were starting the Cigar Association of Virginia with Shorty Cable in 2006. I said, you guys are no longer just cigar salesmen. You've got to build politics into your job description. And that's what all these guys have done. These men and women together, collectively. This has been the great political wake-up call for this industry. And they've all taken it, made it a part of their very being. And so I can't say enough for that. And if they're taking it that seriously, the cigar consumers of this country need to take it equally as seriously.
Absolutely. That's a real good list of names there. So, Glenn, what I want to do is we're gonna start wrapping it up. But before we do that, I want to ask a couple of light questions. But before I ask the light questions, is there anything else we want to just kind of put closure that you want to say as far as the whole FDA thing right now goes on Stogie Geeks?
Well, be engaged. Be engaged. Take part in the public comment period. Get your family, your friends. Everybody's got cigar networks that are passionate about this business. You look at Facebook and Twitter. You look at all the social networking opportunities, the podcasts like yours and all these others. There's plenty of ways for us to spread the word, but we need to get deeply into the 6 digits. Right now we're sitting at about 33,000 comments, 33,400 some comments as of today. We need to get that deep into the 6 digits. And so through all these mediums, we need to be spreading the word as diligently as we can. And we all have networks, we all have friends, we all have cigar clubs. Engaging your friends that are as passionate about this as you are and I am is critical to this process through July 9th and hopefully a couple months thereafter. Go to
If
cigarrights.org and it will tell you everything you need to know to be engaged in the process.
Absolutely, and if everyone would just tell one friend, I guarantee you we'd see a big difference with that too.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. So, Glenn, appreciate the time. I got to ask one more question here. So this is some breaking news I heard. There's this new cigar out, and the name of the cigar is called the Glenn Loope Project.
Oh, Jesus.
And I didn't get a press release on that, by the way. It wasn't. I didn't get to say.
Yeah, I didn't either.
What is this all about?
Yeah, I didn't either. Oh God, I'm not kidding you. It personifies the love in this industry. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I was with Eddie Ortega Monday night in Wisconsin at the Lake Country Cigar Little Smoke. And Eddie asked me if I'd heard from Brett Fry at Tobaccoology in Manassas in Northern Virginia. And I said, no. He said, you haven't heard from Brett? I said, no. And he shut up. He didn't say another bloody word. And I got home on Tuesday, and last night somebody put this picture up on Facebook. And I started getting texts from Brett and the other guys at Tobaccoology. And then they start sending me pictures of this. And I'm like blown away. I don't know what to think of this. I had nothing to do with it. It was an amazing gesture by both Brett at Tobaccoology and Eddie. They put together the box and, this picture of me that, my wife says I look like Charlie Chan in it. I got some weight. If I pulled up a picture of Charlie Chan, I was like, Jesus. But they, with the tie and the whole 9 yards, God love them. And they put out this cigar to commemorate all of our collective work for this process. So I haven't seen it. I haven't smoked it. I am on Monday. I'll be heading back into Washington on Monday afternoon, and I will have my first introduction to the Glen Loope Project Take a Stand cigar. And no one's more surprised than me.
So Eddie did this cigar, and Eddie was the one behind making
Eddie
this
Ortega
cigar.
did it. God bless him. He's an incredible friend, a great supporter of the cause, and he and Brett cooked this project up. So you know as much as I do now.
So in other words, if folks kind of go and get this cigar, there's a portion of this that's going to go for the cause.
That's what I understand. I was texting back and forth, and then I talked to Brett, and apparently $10 of every box is going to come back to help the cause with CRA.
Well, that's great. That's great. So you don't have any blend information or sizes that you can give us, right?
I read on Eddie's page today 4x60.
Interesting.
And what's in it? I don't know. I wasn't consulted on this unique project. So I tell you, I'm blown away by it. I'm absolutely floored by it. I do know that last night when this news broke from Brett and Eddie to me, the first thing that came out of my daughter's mouth was, I better save a box for her future wedding.
Wow.
Which is no time soon, God help us. But she smokes cigars.
And so I guess if folks are interested, they can contact Tobaccoology in Manassas, Virginia, which I haven't been there, by the way, but I've heard everyone's told me it's a great shop.
Great place. Passionate people for the cause.
Excellent. Well, Glenn, I can't thank enough for hanging in there a little longer. We went very long here, but I think it was a very important thing. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Here.
I'm almost out of cigar, and I'm about out of gin, so that's a good stopping point, isn't it?
I'm about the end of my cigar, and I didn't take another one into the makeshift studio here in North Carolina. Before I kind of wrap up, just the trivia contest. I'm going to be giving away 2 3-packs of La Roma de Cuba, and these are the event 3-packs that are not sold regularly. You only can get them at events. They're the box press Bellicosos. Very easy. If you we'll pick 2 winners at random if you email the show at stogiegeeks.com, and all you have to do is put a piece of breaking news that Glenn Loope gave us tonight in there. So if you heard, there was plenty of breaking news we heard tonight. Just put that in there, and we'll pick a winner at random. Probably in about 2 weeks, we'll keep the contest open on that. And then just a reminder again, if you email the show at stogiegeeks.com and you have signed up for the CRA and you kind of present that you signed up as a new member tonight, not only will you get some cigars from Cigar Rights of America, and there are different levels. You could join starting at 1 year for $35. But you'll also get 2 cigars from the Stogie Geeks to contribute to the cause there. So please do that as well. Glenn, thank you so much, my friend. I will see you probably in Las Vegas.
We'll see you in Vegas. Can't wait.
Okay, and then for listeners, just next week we will be doing the 100th show. We should have most of the Stogie. This is interesting. Another kind of patriot person in Clint Aaron of 262 Cigars. He'll be making his first appearance on Stogie Geeks. Then we have some pretty good guests coming up leading up to the trade show on July 3rd. We have none other than Jose Sejas from Matilde Cigars. And on July 10th, we have Nick Aragua himself, Nicholas Melillo, from his new company, Melillo International. So he'll be joining us. And then on July 24th, we have George Rodriguez of Rodrigo Cigars. Thank you, everybody. And remember, as we end every show, and Glenn, we end every show, we tell members to join the CRA. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next week.